From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture in the ultimate adventure, life itself. I think we've had a lot of all three of those things in this past weekend. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Napzok.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And we are here today to discuss, out of all of the mountain of things we can discuss from Star Wars Day weekend, with releases, with the Phantom Menace. Ken and I saw Phantom Menace in the theater. Jennifer saw Return of the Jedi. We have so much Star Wars to talk about, but we want to zero in for this episode on Tales of the Empire. This is our deep dive into that collection of moody, thematic animated shorts. We also want to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download, and a 30-day free trial. I'm suddenly the Irma Gerd meme. The free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are continuing to recommend The Living Force by John Jackson Miller. Ken is halfway through this. I finished reading this one before the screening of The Phantom Menace. It had a profound impact on the way I watched The Phantom Menace, because when there's just like two shots of Yarl Poof, I'm like, that man has more to say. Let's give some time to that Quirmian. He's a person. He's got thoughts. He's hundreds of years old. Deppa has more to add. It was great to spend time with the Jedi Council. So if you want to spend time with the Jedi Council and the Living Force, you can download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. Ken, we also have, I guess we don't really have an ask. We have a tell about a previous ask. So you want to cover that?
We have a tell. By the way, what a professional. You stumbled on stage and flipped and did a ta-da with that Irma God reference. I think that was beautiful.
Yeah.
You did a Willy Wonka roll. It's great. Yes, we do have a tell. We have hit a Patreon goal. We hit the 400 paid supporters mark. We appreciate that support. We've stayed over it. We're there. And we can announce that the poll for the first movie commentary in our new series has been closed. It's been determined, and the answer, the winner, they're all winners, but the leader of the clubhouse turned out to be the final choice: The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars Episode 9, the final chapter in the Skywalker saga, according to the posters. We are going to dive into this. Hopefully, I'm going to be recording that next few weeks, so stay tuned on when that happens, work out some technical stuff, how we want to pull it off, but it will be available for all you Patreon supporters who made it possible, and then we'll put it out there into the world as well. So going to be a lot of fun. As we've done 3 commentaries in the past, we might do those movies again, but we felt it's a good time to revisit the format and hang out with all of you. So there you go. A big tell, a fun tell.
A big fun tell, and we will have more asks, because I'm sure that's what people are tuning in for. Like, oh, aren't they going to ask for more things? Yes, we will. Don't worry. Anyway, thank you for everyone who has been a part of the Patreon over the years. I always forget, and then Facebook often reminds me that Star Wars Day, May the 4th, is also the anniversary of our Patreon, because we launched it in 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I will always remember, because spent all day launching the Patreon, seeing people's kind comments and support, then went to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and bumped into a person who told me we shouldn't have a Patreon.
Yeah.
A story for a different time. But the Patreon has turned out, so thank you all very much for your support over these 7 years of patronage.
Yeah. I remember that day, too. We got a real nasty note, too, from someone who was like, how dare you? But let's focus on the positive. We're still going.
Exactly.
It keeps the show going. It absolutely has been key to our survival, and we appreciate all of you helping to reach the latest goal.
It really has, and I'm really, really proud of the community that is able to exist around it with the Discord and all that. So nothing but positivity there. And we segue from positivity to darkness, the darkness of Tales of the Empire. So I just want to start with this. Amidst all the other Star Wars and Life Goes On events, Ken, when did you watch these episodes? What kind of mood or headspace or vibe were you in when you absorbed these?
I thought I was not going to be able to get to these till Sunday, we had a great time. I'm not going to do a full recount of the day. We'll probably do it in the future. So, Friday night, Phantom Menace. Saturday, got a lot of stuff going on, but I do want to shout out our buddy Alex Damon put out his annual canon timeline video. And man, that gets harder and harder to do year by year with all the books and comics and everything. So that was kind of my morning over breakfast, watching Alex's great work. Check it out on Star Wars Explained. But I thought that's my Star Wars for the day. And then about 11 o'clock at night on Saturday night, I was like, oh, I've got time. And we're not going to bed yet. So I watched them, and you talk about dark and moody. It was a midnight screening of these dark tone poems of the Empire.
Yeah, and was that, for you, is that a good way and time to watch them? Do you feel like it added to your experience?
It kind of did. Yeah, they're all kind of haunting in their own way, even when there's some hope present, I think. So I don't know if I'd recommend it all the time, watch it late at night, but it was a lot of fun to do that. So yeah, it helped.
Excellent. And Jennifer, I know you had a big Star Wars Day adventure seeing Return of the Jedi with your family. When did you find time to let Tales of the Empire into your heart?
It was a little rough because I stayed up till 2 a.m. making Ewok ears for my 2 kids and me. So that was Friday night before May the 4th. So the May the 4th, it was just a blur. And I kept falling asleep. My husband was laughing because I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes open. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it Sunday. Sunday, I was working on teacher appreciation posters. And so again, I tried to watch it. I started falling asleep. So I was like, okay, Monday it is. And so Monday, I carved out some time during the day. I had my coffee and I allowed it to consume me. And it was wonderful. Yeah.
You allowed the coffee and the dark side to consume you.
Exactly. I surrendered. When
you started saying you were making teacher appreciation posters, I thought you were going to also add and Ewok ears for all of the teachers, of course.
Yep.
Listen, if I could have snuck in Star Wars stuff, I did some Disney stuff because I have to, but no Star Wars stuff.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think part of the reason I ask is it's such a great bounty, all of the stuff coming out on Star Wars Day. But for myself, who really wants to absorb it all, it can just also be kind of, I have this image in my mind a lot of an old sitcom vaudeville bit of like 3 people trying to walk through a doorway at once and they get stuck. And I just had a little bit of that feeling. Anyway, yeah, so for myself, Friday night went to this Phantom Menace screening at El Capitan, which was great. And I was buzzing like a little kid and had a hard time getting to sleep. And I was only able to sleep for a couple hours. And then I had to get up early Saturday to fly to Seattle for this great convention, horror convention, Crypticon Seattle, that was showing our film, The Nightmare Adorable. So I was like, well, since I have to get up really early for a flight anyway, I'm going to watch Tales of the Empire at 4 a.m. With coffee. And it was really nice to have it just be like, this is my Tales of the Empire time. The world is not even awake yet. So I really did enjoy being able to just sort of sink into the mood and vibe and be with them and not kind of watch them scattershot over the weekend, but to be there and be consumed. So we've already got a little hints of some overall reactions, but Jennifer, I want to start with you. What was your Monday morning coffee reaction to Tales of the Empire? Did you love it, like it, struggle with it? Where'd you go?
Yeah, I'll say this. It took me 3 tries to finally get through the first episode, which I was like, something's wrong here. This should be my jam, right? Which we'll get into. But then it really grew on me, especially like the later episodes. I was like, oh, okay, now I see where this is going. I really liked that it filled in some of the narrative gaps with Morgan Elsbeth's character specifically that I felt like was lacking in Ahsoka for me personally. And so for me, I just loved it all. I ended up loving it all, but it did take some time and some coffee.
Yeah. Did you watch the Tales of the Jedi? Because I know you've been sort of in and out.
Yeah, I did, and I mean, I loved the Ahsoka one. Really stuck out, and maybe that was why it was initially. I was kind of comparing it to that, but I ended up, I think, liking this one more. The Tales of the Empire more.
Yeah, I think you're putting your finger on something that's really fascinating about these is that they are these mixture of these sort of moody tone poem vignettes that are focused, really, really well focused, I think, on themes and ideas, which we will talk about a lot. But there's this mix of sort of like this moody theme versus almost this sort of nerdy specificity of canon answers.
Right.
It just makes them this really sort of interesting combination if you're kind of in the bubble Star Wars fan who's there for sort of the mood and, for lack of a better word, answers. And we got like some answers about Morgan and Barris.
Barris.
Yeah. Ken, what is your overall reaction?
I have to, tip my cap and my cards or whatever. Show my hand is the phrase, I guess. I love the format, so I'm in from the beginning. In fact, I'm going to pitch that all Star Wars stories going forward are 15 minutes or less. Movies, TV shows, just fits into my life a lot better right now. Joking, of course. But I really loved this. I love what they did. I was a little surprised. I think I was expecting them to be a little more interwoven like the Ahsoka and Dooku ones were, playing off each other. And they did, I think, thematically, without a doubt. Some of the themes are shared clearly. But I ended up liking them both. Love the Barris stuff. The Morgan stuff was really good. I'm not alone in this. I saw some people tweet out that some said they felt underwhelmed by them. I didn't feel that. I really, really like the Morgan ones. But I think it's to your point, Jen. I'm with you too. I love the character of Morgan. Very intrigued by the character. And I thought Ahsoka, we got some of her, but I wanted to spend more time with the character. Now we do. But it had that feeling of going back and going, oh, okay, that's how. Oh, okay, that. Oh, there's that. And whereas the Barris is brand new territory where we don't know. So, of course, you're going to be a little bit more pulled in by it there. So it's almost not fair to the Morgan ones. But I really, really enjoyed them. Really, really enjoyed that. We'll get into the details. But, seeing Grievous again, and which is weird to be like, my old pal Grievous, there he is, stabbing everybody. All that stuff. And then I think the Tales of the Empire title is great, but I had some of those we're in several eras now. The Empire is just a construct at this time. It's an emotional theme, the Empire. So, but loved it, a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a pedantic reaction of like, maybe this should have been like Tales of the Dark Side, because I mean, it was specifically about the Empire and one person. Morgan's really trying to get in it, and Barris is really trying to get out of it. So it is specific to the Empire, but at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, Tales of the Empire makes me feel like I'm going to see, what went wrong in Jar Gerard's life,
Yeah.
Right.
Young Veers saves the day or something like that. And,
When did Yularen grow the beard and why? Or the mustache, rather.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I'm with you. I big picture loved them. I love the style, the moody, poetic, the minimal. This Tales of the Jedi, and even more Tales of the Empire feels like this evolution that Star Wars animation is going through with Bad Batch, of really using just the form to communicate mood and evoke emotion with the sound design and the location, and everything about it is just sort of beautifully done to be evocative on every level. I love the commitment to action, because Star Wars animation can be kind of all over the map. You can have, old episodes of Clone Wars where like, it's mostly Padme and Jar Jar talking about politics, and one blaster goes off, right? And then one episode is like, this is almost a half an hour of clones being murdered, so it can be a wide swing. And this was fascinating that they're all moody and emotional, but each one had kind of a big, cool, impressive fight, which I really enjoyed. I also really enjoyed that there were some really rewarding if other Star Wars storytelling is tip of the iceberg, this was some great iceberg reveals, like like the TIE Defender being Morgan's idea all along was that was chef's kiss. Great. We'll talk about that. So there's a ton of that stuff. I thought there was excellent thematic bookending of the first and last episodes, with the beginning with a wise mother that Morgan doesn't listen to, and Barris herself then becoming the wise mother. At the end, I was like, it should have been called Tales of the Wise Mothers. It's some great stuff. So I have nothing but tons and tons of positive things to say about the ideas in the themes. But I did feel like this kind of ongoing dance of the balance of ideas and themes versus sort of plot stuff of kind of what happens next. I think I really enjoyed everything that happened in the Morgan episodes. But after watching that final episode and poor Wing, being asked to make this promise, it made me just really want to put on the Jedi episode from Mandalorian season 2 that
Mm-hmm.
completes his story,
Right.
that completes Corvus's story.
Mm-hmm.
And in one way, it's like, yeah, I know these exist to fill in these places, but I also kind of wanted to feel like I had a full meal, and it didn't. I felt like the Morgan ones left me feeling like I had an appetizer. I had great soup and salad, and it made me want to finish the meal by watching
Mm-hmm.
that Mandalorian episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Barris episodes, the Morgan episodes I enjoyed. The Barris episodes I loved. Just fantastic.
Same.
And we can talk more about it, but I thought, after Barris is stabbed, another abdomen wounded in Star Wars, which is my number one.
Yes.
I will be honest, just like I'm not a petition starter, but if I was going to start a petition, it would be leave abdomens alone for a minimum of 5 years. Star Wars challenge. It's just, I understand, but it's across projects, and it's a lot of abdomen wounds.
I just want to say, the first time I saw it, it didn't register to. I was like, "Oh, cool." Yeah. And then I was watching this morning for notes, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't. Oh God, here we are again." I said, "I can't wait to get Joseph's thoughts on another abdomen."
Yeah, I'm gonna let it go. I don't want to, I want to acknowledge the things that didn't work for me without obsessing on them. I think I had this moment, and I want to ask you both about it, and then we'll move on. I had that moment after Barris was stabbed in when she was getting through to Lynn, that this was going to be the end of her story. And then I felt like if she's meant to be dead, it's certainly not definitive. There was, I was this psychotic freeze framer this morning with like, when is breath still coming out? Like, if she is meant to have passed, it's not clear. I was left with the impression that there's more Barris stories to tell. And I'm excited for more Barris stories, but I also just I think I'm pining for some more Star Wars stories that feel complete. And this one did feel complete in terms of themes and ideas, but I almost want to sit and resonate with the themes and ideas. And instead, at the last moment, I was left with, where's Barris going to show up next? And so for me, on a personal level, there's a little tension between the sort of how complete Tales of the Empire feels in terms of its ideas and themes, and then in terms of the larger plot of Star Wars, that it sort of just, that the end beat just left me thinking more about when is Barris going to show up next. And I wanted to just stay thinking about how beautiful this episode was. Ken, what were your thoughts on Barris's end or not end?
Well, I think that's why the abdomen joke didn't stick with me the first time I saw it, because she gets stabbed, and I kind of went, "Oh, Filoni came back to end it," and I know he didn't write the scripts, the stories. You know what I mean? Where I was like, "Oh, he waited all this time for Barris," and was like, "Cool, great story. We're moving on." And then I should have waited 10, 15 seconds because the rest of it happened. I'm with you. I think it's a complete thematic meal indeed, and a lot there, and I really loved them. I'm not normally that guy or that kind of fan, but the episodes ended, and I was like, "Oh, this is a trailer for whatever's next," And that's not, I don't mean in a bad way, but I had that vibe of like, all right, we got the Traveler, she's the healer, and / wise mother. We got a path you don't understand. Okay, all the pieces are coming to place, and there's been a lot of cry for a path show, and a path show could take you anywhere, into the criminal underworld. It could take you into the upper echelon of the rich elite. It could take you a lot of places, and there's a lot of pieces on the board. So that's not a bad thing. We can talk more in the end, but I think I'm there with you on that feeling. It didn't just detract, and I don't think it detracted from your enjoyment and either. But like, it definitely was present, especially on second watch.
Jennifer, how did you feel about Barris's fate? Did you feel that she was? Did you have a reaction as that she's dead, or if she's alive, and were you left thinking about where is she going to show up next?
Yeah, I liked it. It felt like the story was complete. I was like, okay, this is now potentially like, Lynn, this is for Lynn, right? And I actually missed, because I couldn't see, because it was, I don't know, far away. I missed it that they were coming out. And then I went back. I'm like, wait, I think I missed something. So I went back and I'm like, oh, that's them. And I think it's so purposeful that they made them so small in the distance. We cannot see if Barris is dead one might assume that she'll get help and she'll live. Or I'm like, is this more about Lynn's journey? And now we're going to follow her journey. But it really did feel like it was setting up something next. Whatever is going to be happening next in animation, there it was right there. And I didn't mind it. I was like,
okay, good.
Okay, cool.
Good. I'm happy that you enjoyed the ending. Yeah, and for me, I think, Lynn's line about "I'm not going to leave you here" could be taken on a physical level of like, I got a Bacta tank in the ship, or it can be taken on a spiritual level of I'm going to take you somewhere, peaceful, and you got through to me, and it's all great. And I could not be more excited for a Path show. It's thrilled, and if it's the next animated show and Barris is the lead, I'll be thrilled. It's not that I don't want more Barris storytelling. I think after Ahsoka in particular, which I thought was also a complete thematic meal, and Sabine and Ahsoka had complete arcs, but it was it left so many threads unresolved that I think I'm just pining for some things that feel complete, of like that we're able to say goodbye to characters in Star Wars. I think is maybe what I'm coming to, of like, I love that we leave room open to tell their stories. And I guess we've said goodbye to Morgan. Yeah. But I think there was a moment where it's like, oh, I would be okay with it if this was Barris's story of she went on this amazing journey and helped people and was willing to sacrifice herself, and she did. And I think I felt like that was the story. And then it turned immediately into, is she alive? Is she going to star in the Path? And I just wanted to be honest about kind of some of my ambivalence about that.
No, I think it's fair, because that's what I say. I'm not that guy. That means, I almost to the point of like getting grumpy of if people ask, hey, do you think this means? And I'm like, don't worry about that. We got this, and it doesn't have to be that drastically, connected to everything has the stakes, or everything moves the story. It's not advertising for the next one. It's not an end credit scene that's the trailer for the next one. And I say that, somewhat cynically towards some of the MCU stuff at times. But it is, and again, I'm okay with it. I'm with you. The Path is not just one simple concept. I mean, that's a big concept of the Empire during that time, and trying to save Force-sensitive kids, and what that means, and what are you going to do with it. And there's, again, we got video games, we got comics, a lot of stuff, a lot of players are on the field. But I kind of agree with you too. I think that's a good thing to address. I have no problem. Ventress back, ready to explore it. Maul coming back years ago. Right. Spider legs. Okay. Look where that ends up. Some of the best storytelling in modern Star Wars times. So I'm always ready to follow it, but I'm with you too. There is something powerful about tech gone. Hurts. Means something. We played with some theories of Tech 2.0, all that stuff, and they would have worked if they've done, I would have trusted them. But there's something about loss and actually having to accept it and move on and wrap it up that I like. I get that Barris in a 3-part short series might not be the ending you'd want to give her. Maybe in a series, something like that. But I like what you're saying. I feel it, as they might say.
Yeah. I think and this is the final thing I'll say on it, just because I want to be super clear of like, I love Barris and I loved her in this, and I'm really glad that she might continue. In 5 years from now, we're probably going to be talking about, her amazing journey in the Path show. And it's not about like, I wanted Barris to die and Barris should die. I think it's realizing that for some of the Star Wars story, that I want variety in Star Wars stories. I want some of them to be, and where will we see this character next? Because that's fun. And I want some of them to be Tech or Rogue One and say, damn, that person made a sacrifice, and that's the end of their story, so that we have, beginnings and endings. I think that's where it's more about that than Barris herself by any means. I want Barris to be alive.
I would say for me personally, I actually had no real affinity for the character. And so and we'll get into the final episode, but for me, because the character evolves and becomes a character that I feel like we don't see in Star Wars enough, or at least on screen, that to me actually got me interested in seeing more of her. If she had not changed, if she'd only completed part of her redemption, right, and I would have been like, okay, fine, kill her off, because I'm all for the deaths in Star Wars. I'm all for the Game of Thrones ification of Star Wars. I want more of it. Yeah, it's why, like Andor, it's like, give it to me because that's real. That's real life. But because the character evolved and it was so new and Meredith Salinger's performance was top notch, I was like, oh, okay, now I want more of this character. Because normally I'm like you guys, I'm like, let's end this story. We don't need to have legacy all the time or familiar characters, but I really like what they did with the character and how she changed. That to me was exciting.
I love that you're saying that because I want to be really clear of my ambivalence is about wanting more endings in Star Wars, not wanting Barriss to have ended. Because when she got
Not
stabbed, I was like,
death?
no, because I want her
You want
to.
deaths. You just wanted to,
You want somebody. Yeah, I mean, let me pick some characters to die and some characters to continue.
I got the Rolodex. Who do we want?
This one's got to go. Bring this one back and give him spider legs.
Right.
Anyway, I think people know what we're talking about, and I love your point there, Jennifer. So let's talk about some of the big ideas and themes, and we can visit these more as we talk through each of these individual stories as well. But Ken, what did you think? What were you left with, sort of like the big idea that resonated with you, or ideas?
I don't know if you've heard this. Fear factors into a lot of Star Wars storytelling, and as it should. It's light and dark, fear and hope, all these things. I love when Star Wars is like we're playing with this small but powerful pool of themes. So many things spin off of it, to be clear. But I love there was this angle on fear. Great line in the third episode of the Barriss arc: "Fear is not your ally, but your master." Of two people who made decisions based out of fear. And breaking it down to that. Now, fear leads to all the great things, or dark things that Yoda does warn us all in The Phantom Menace. Morgan's episodes definitely put that out there. But there's something, this is a personal take of fear can cause a lot of damage, and fear can be, used as a weapon, as the Empire does. Truly Tales of the Empire. But that moment in our lives where you're like, I'm going through some of that too, where I'm like, I'm going to leap over there. And that's a decision based on fear, and you're trapped by it. You don't see clearly. You don't make the right choice, and it opens up all these other things. And to see, Morgan, you're so right. One getting in, one getting out. And to see Lynn struggle with the fear, it does have a hold on me, and I see no path out, and I'm just lost in a glass tunnel of my emotions, But to conquer the fear on that level, and fear to me isn't always Vader walking in, though we have that, and it's a fear-inducing moment. But you know what I mean? Like, so I really love playing with fear from all sides of it. A lot of other things that popped up in these episodes, but that was the big one for me, a personal takeaway.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the word is used very concretely in a couple of great quotes about the matron in the first one, talking about don't create such perfect soil for your fear. That's a paraphrase, but you know what I mean. Jennifer, what struck you the most watching these episodes is the kind of the ideas, the emotions?
For me, it's who deserves redemption. Who deserves to be forgiven? And with Morgan, it's fascinating because the Mountain Clan mother basically does not offer forgiveness, does not offer her a path for redemption. It's like your fate has already been decided. I feel sorry for you. Whereas Barriss obviously offers Lynn redemption, even though Lynn has done terrible things that Barriss has even witnessed. It's also interesting that, what was that character? Oh, it's Shelby Young's character. I can't remember what, I wrote it down somewhere. The alien creature that goes to Morgan and is trying to offer her redemption. And is like, no, Morgan's like, no, I don't want it. But then we see the flip side where Lynn actually takes it. So yeah, it's just constant theme of redemption.
Yeah, no, I really like that take on the wise mother, not feeling. I kind of took it as the matron felt like there's not. I can't help you with your redemption because you will destroy everything around you.
She's like a lost cause. That's kind of how I felt when she delivered it. It was just so. Obviously judgmental, and she's angry about what she did. So
she got a lot of people killed.
I understand. I get it. Yeah.
The matron did rescue her, bring her into the community, and said, "Please don't burn this down." Oh, you burned it down. So
You gotta leave.
But it was like maybe would have been nicer to say, come back when you've learned not to burn things down, instead of that. Really, like, I see your path, it's set, you're done, period.
You're done.
I think you're really right to call that out. That's a great contrast between Barris saying you can always choose to find your way back out. Yeah. Great. There were a lot of I felt like there was a lot of core Star Wars themes of fear and of the dark side, but I thought some really interesting focuses within that. I really felt like I feel like Star Wars always wants to tell the story of it is the dark side isn't cool, it's not fun. The fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate leads to suffering, is what you are going to do to others, but also yourself. This isn't fun. It's not going to get you what you want. You're just going to suffer. And in order to be on the dark side and to stay on the dark side, you kind of have to keep lighting that flame of anger. You know, like when you get angry in real life and you first just decide to let it go and be angry, it does feel very powerful, right? Of like, you decide, I'm not taking this anymore, and I'm going to take action. I'm going to push back, and it can be electrifying. And I think characters dark side characters trying to find a way to live in that moment, convincing themselves that they're more powerful and more focused. And so I thought there was this great contrast in the two arcs between Morgan, who is just determined to live in the flames, almost literally, and Barris, who's like, I don't want this, I want out. So by the time we get to the end of both of their arcs, the last action Morgan has taken is literally lighting the rest of Corvus on fire and being like, this is good. This is the way it should always be. I need my anger to get my community back. I want to live in revenge. Thrawn is supporting her and living just in revenge, living in the flames always. And in contrast, we see Barris having stepped away. She is in a cool, calm, natural place. That natural cave, maybe force sensitive cave, whatever, is just a beautiful, like, cool, calm, reflective place. And to see Lynn, like Morgan, living in the flames of like, I need to keep my anger up. I need to keep my anger up. I need everything to be red and slashing all the time, because if I calm down for a moment, all of the suffering will come in, and then I'll have to deal with what I've done and how I'm suffering and how it's not. And I thought there was this great contrast of Morgan's just literally like, light it all on fire so I never have to deal with it. And Lynn, in contrast, came to a place where she had to see herself. Ken, looks like you have a thought.
I have a few. I'm laughing because you think I'm thinking of a memory in which fear turned to anger, hate, and suffering. I'll share it as quick as I can in a second. But you had a great little thing there, as you always do. But the idea of, hey, the Empire, they got the cooler toys. I mean, I'm wearing my TIE Fighter shirt. Woo, they got the cool gear. But look what it actually is. And the moment when Vader walks in, and we'll get to the details as we break down the episodes, but when Vader walks in and it's Vader and he's breathing and he sits there in his throne of power above his subjects there, I don't expect, Barris wasn't like, oh, Annie? Annie, is it you, Annie? But what an image between what they were just a short time ago in the Star Wars storyline at the end of the Clone Wars, and what Anakin is. And they shot it almost, it reminded me of that famous Great Revenge of the Sith shot of the mask coming down and Anakin truly being trapped in that prison. And it highlighted for me of just like that's what you become. And that's around the time that Barris is given her mask, which is a cool mask. But by the way, I would have been like, hey, Birdman over there's got something kind of cool. Give me, I got a helmet. I got a bike helmet. But you know what I mean? And then she puts on the mask and you hear the voice of for the Empire, long live the Empire. So I think it really plays to what you're talking about too. And I think these episodes, especially this stuff with Lynn, with the fourth sister, right? I mean, it really shows that the emptiness of that pursuit, and love that you're playing it with Morgan. Once there was a Black Friday evening back in my security days where store manager started unlocking the doors, and he got mad and I got mad, and we screamed at each other face to face, nose to nose, veins popping out, stress going on, and we didn't solve anything. And 10 minutes later, the patrons of the mall ripped down the front doors to the mall and stormed it. And as I was standing around it, I turned around and we made eye contact. And he eventually comes over and he's literally like, yeah, we just yelled at each other. We didn't solve anything. And we were afraid of this is going to happen. And I was like, and it happened. And we were fine. But it was just a real life moment. That's why I love these Star Wars lessons of I held on to this. I will scream louder than you. I will be bigger than you. I will red blade you. And now I'm suffering as well as you. We didn't solve anything. We didn't have any peace. We didn't have any resolution. We only hurt each other. And I love when Star Wars kind of reminds me of those very real moments.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think the one of this great contrast between Morgan and Barris is that, you know, they're both survivors of fallen communities, of the Night Sisters and the Jedi. And I think there's a lot for both of them about community. But Morgan's path is, I have this horrible wound from the loss of community, and what can I do to fix my wound? And Barris's path ends up being, everyone in the galaxy is hurting. Yeah. What can I do to help other people deal with the loss that they have incurred? So, like for your great story, it's like you and the store owner, when you're screaming at each other, you're like Morgan of like, this is about my fear and what I can possibly do to control my fear. And then you end up in the place of, we're actually in this together, like Barris going, how can we work together to solve our pain of our stores?
Listen to each other's needs.
Yeah. One of the other things I really like that I think does pop up in Star Wars, but it had such an amazingly great focus on it, is that the sort of honesty versus rationalizing the dark side of, I think it's easy to sometimes look at the dark side characters and go like, oh yeah, well they chose. But I love when Anakin falls in Revenge of the Sith. It happens, you know, very fast when he makes the commitment. But one of the first things Palpatine says to him is BS of like, well, if the Jedi came for me, the next move they're going to make is against all the senators, including probably the implication is killing Padme. And Anakin's like, you're right. And like, you both know that's utter bull, right? But it's not enough to just go like, you know what, masks off, let's give in to our anger. You be a wizard, I'll be an evil cyborg. Great, we're good. There's still that rationalization that actually what we're doing is necessary. And this is full of rationalizations. Thrawn's whole conversation with Morgan is about like, what's the honesty? Why do you really want to do this? And gets past some of the rationalizing to Morgan just saying, I want power and control, and I want to do whatever possible to bring my people back and get revenge, and that's my honesty. So Thrawn kind of strips away the rationalization that Morgan has going on. And then I think most of the Barriss arc is about Grand Inquisitor's rationalizing, Lynn is rationalizing. In that second episode, Barriss is trying to rationalize that the Jedi were awful and they hurt people. And if Jedi continue to live, they're going to hurt people again. So yeah, we're breaking necks and yeah, we're wearing armor and helmets and have red blades, but we're really just trying to stop chaos. We're trying to promote order. In that whole second episode, Barriss is still trying to lie to herself, and Lynn is making it impossible for her to continue lying to herself, which you can talk about in more detail. But I just love that there was so much just on-screen rationalizing of, I didn't choose to put on black armor and be a red blade murderer. The Jedi made me do it. And if I stop for a second, and the Grand Inquisitor has lines about like, this is needed to protect the Emperor's vision, which will keep us all safe and order. There's so much lying and rationalizing, and I think it's really great to show that part of the dark side.
I love that. I love that use of fear. I love that Palpatine basically was like, if they indict me for campaign and tax fraud, they'll come after you next, Anakin.
Yeah, exactly. One other thing I wanted to throw out there is I love also just this kind of there's an idea of loss of identity and how much pain comes from that of, you know, Morgan having her Night Sister marking stripped away because of the loss of the magic. We can talk about the canon of that. And, you know, Barriss putting on the mask, which is such a murdering of identity. Her insistence that, of calling Lynn by her name because that's who she are. There's a great thread that always goes with masks in Star Wars of your true face, your true name, all that kind of stuff. Exactly. Jennifer, do you have any other sort of big picture thoughts on the thematic stuff?
No, because I want to save it for the episodes.
Got it.
When I was looking at my notes, I'm like, oh, I don't want to give that away yet.
All right. Well, Jennifer's got some reveals, so let's get into it. No, I agree with you. I just get too damn excited. So we're going to dive in here to each of these individual episodes. I wrote a little paragraph summary as I was watching because it was 4 a.m. and I wanted to make sure I remembered. So we're going to dive into the first episode, Path of Fear, directed by Nate Villanueva, written by Amanda Rose Munoz. All of these are credited as story by Dave Filoni. So I like the idea that he's just like, hey, I got this idea. Everybody, write it. Make it real. Right. So summary of this first episode. Morgan sees her sisters and mother cut down by Grievous in the droids on Dathomir. She is rescued by the Mountain Clan and offered to walk their path, which appears to be in harmony with nature, avoiding conflict. But Morgan is angry and frightened. She convinces other Mountain Clan members that the droids will come for them, stoking their fears. Morgan and several of these Mountain Clan members descend into the dark jungle of Dathomir to get weapons. Because they have descended, they are attacked and mostly killed by droids and then saved by the magic of the mountain matron with a burst of blue defensive energy. The matron pities Morgan, saying she can see the path Morgan has clearly chosen. So, Jennifer, what is your overall reaction to this one? Any specific moments or ideas that you particularly enjoy?
We're going to start on a negative note. I'm sorry. So this one I really struggled with, which is why I kept falling asleep. Number one, I was so tired. I did miss the crucial piece of information that it was Morgan Elsbeth. So by the end, when they actually said her full name, I was like, oh, that's who this is. That's problem number one. Okay. Problem number one. Problem number two. And I was like, oh, like when they did that tilt down, and I saw it was Dathomir, I got so excited. I'm like, yes, we are diving in. And then when they introduced the Mountain Clan of Witches, I was like, because if you've read The Courtship of Princess Leia, the Singing Mountain Clan is introduced there. And in my mind, I had envisioned them more, I don't know, like wildlings, right? Like just more mountainy.
With furs.
Like, furs, exactly. Boots.
Bone helmets.
Yes, spears, right? And this mountain clan was very different. They were like nuns in the mountain. I did not like it. I did not like that. It really, and this is a case of me as a fan with my own headcanon of what I envisioned, and it really was a big disconnect. And I was left very unhappy. But it grew on me. The story grew on me later on. But this episode, I really bristled with because on paper, I should have loved it. And
so you were poised to find the flaws in the matron's treatment of Morgan.
Yeah.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I think I didn't know that they were in Courtship of Princess Leia. I've never read that one.
Well, it's a Singing Mountain Clan. They didn't say the singing part of it, but I believe it's
the Singing Mountain Clan.
I believe that. Yeah, they call it the Singing Mountain Clan from Courtship of Princess Leia.
I'm just picturing witches in The Sound of Music, just spinning and singing. It's so great. And I think I came at it from the opposite perspective. I felt like I didn't know that there had been in canon before, so I was like, this is great. You pull back the frame in Star Wars and there's always more in the frame. And I love the idea that there's other covens and other ways of life on Dathomir. And to see that was great. And to see it made me appreciate the Night Sisters even more because they're so complex. I love them. They are tapping into the dark side, but they also seem like they're mostly leaving other people alone, but they do brutalize the Night Brothers. So they're fun to root. They're so sympathetic and you root for them and they're like, oh yeah, but the way you just pretty mean to the old Night Brothers, all that stuff. So then to see a different group of a different coven interacting with the beautiful natural world of Dathomir in a different way and seeing the glowing blue rocks, and seeing that the matron had power, but that it was that sort of blue, almost like defensive energy of just, I'm not really attacking you. I'm just saying you leave me alone. And having this great like, we live up in the hills and we just want to be happy with nature. We're going to go on our hunt. We don't want to get involved. I just thought it was so it gave I loved how much it made the Night Sisters' magic on Dathomir a choice. That that's the way they're interacting with the magics of this planet. They're choosing a different path, right or wrong, and here's this mountain clan to show them in a different light. It was like as cool as it was to see Grievous be brutal and awful and to learn more about Morgan, just the existence of the mountain clan was like my favorite thing about it. But that was because I had no preconceived notion that had been living in my mind for decades about what they might be like. Ken?
Do they sing songs in that book?
It says singing. It's the singing mountain clan. That is correct.
Wow.
I mean, it's considered obviously legends, and they were a bitter rival of the Night Sister clan.
There's a lot on Dathomir, and if we're returning to it in any way, shape, or form going forward, and some of the storytelling post Ahsoka season 1, I mean, there's a lot of ways to explore it, and this was a fun one for me. I do recall reading some of Courtship of Princess Leia, but that was around the time I peeled off a little bit. Truce of Bakura, that book as well. But I love that they're pulling stuff from that. So but I get you, Jen. I felt if you got 30 years of no, that ain't it. It can sometimes get in your head. But I understand it.
Look at how cool that is. Look at how cool that is. Right? That's what I want.
Is she riding a warg? What photo? What am I looking at there? Wow.
I believe she's riding. Yeah. She's riding.
These are,
a Rancor.
A Rancor, yeah.
Oh, is that a Rancor? Nice. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, look, they could be on the other side of the other hill. We could.
It could be maybe that's why they're the singing, because this is just the non-singing mountain clan.
Right.
The singing mountain clan might be on.
Yep.
But we are going. We are in some storytelling. There's no reason to leave Thrawn there with his tenuous alliance with the Night Sisters from the other galaxy. They're on Dathomir. I think there's a good chance that we will see both the singing and non-singing mountain clans again.
The singing and the silent.
The singing and the silent. Yeah.
We're the auto-tune sisters.
We're the judgy mountain clan. But I did.
You know
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, cool thing about the episode was actually the mountains were practical. Somebody made them at Lucasfilm. I saw a photo of it. It's this really cool model that somebody created and painted. So that's a cool aspect.
Awesome. Yeah. Ken, what was your reaction to this one?
Loved seeing it. I think I had a little bit of that weird Grievous reaction of just like I've changed my tune on Grievous over the years, where I used to be kind of he's a hacking, broken, organ sack of a villain, to he's a powerful lesson. And I love seeing it, and I love how it plays out. But there was something I have to admit of like, Grievous Unleashed, got it. He's a threat. He is definitely someone to not travel with. So I have to own that I had a little bit of the cool factor. Not that I love seeing Night Sisters slaughtered, but I did like revisiting it from another angle. That, along with, it's not quite as big in the Star Wars storytelling as Order 66 and some of the other things, the Death Star blowing up, all those things where you can have different reactions from different characters and play it over and over and over and see it from a different point of view. But, I had the thought of Marin's somewhere there. We know what's going on with Ventress during that moment in time. So I like seeing that. The knowing it was Elsbeth, I was intrigued to go back and get some of those answers. I think the first episode had some of the best lessons for me of the someone who, just because someone doesn't want to fight doesn't mean they can't, and a lot of the setting up the choices there, but also just playing with something that Star Wars does well. And I think Dooku scratches this itch as well, of a starting point of pain that is real, that is valid, that is the anger and vengeance is and pain is earned from Morgan, and it's not easy. And I never want to directly one-to-one compare to real life, because that could discount a lot of people's experiences and feelings and struggles and challenges. But, we're playing with this. Yeah, Morgan wasn't born evil. Morgan wasn't born with an imperial spoon in her mouth. She got there. And to see step one, I thought was valuable to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really love the just because we're choosing not to fight doesn't mean we don't have power is, great. The line that the matron has, do not give your fear such fertile ground to take root. I thought that was really great. And I think to me, the point of of this story is Morgan is understandably devastated. We empathize with her. We get to see the horror that has been wrought upon her. And so it's that great Star Wars empathy for why the Darksiders feel the way they do, but for me, not the actions that they take based on it. Is she is offered a path out of your whole life. This is horrible and you need to heal, but your whole life doesn't need to be about revenge. And she's basically saying, like, I need it to be about revenge. I want it to be about revenge. And for me, what happens is that, and I think there are a lot of real life parallels that I will try not to get into, but she stokes the fear in the Mountain Clan, who is probably safe, that they aren't safe, and so they need to get weapons to defend themselves. But what's in Morgan's heart is, I can't just sit here peacefully. I want to go find weapons because I want the droids to find me because I want to fight. And so there's a lot of really powerful real life things there for me of like, why are you truly picking up a weapon? It's probably because you want to fight, but you're going to try to lie to people that they're in danger. But it's that you want a fight, and Morgan wanted a fight and got a lot of people killed.
And got one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take on it. I just want to ask the canon question. So I know there's some stuff still floating out there about a short story in one of the Clone Wars books that might be Morgan's introduction, but there is this kind of canon wrinkle of Morgan's appearance changing because the Night Sisters' magic is fading, which was just like horrible and sort of beautiful in its horror and that loss of identity and loss of community, that your face actually changes because your family is gone. Horrible, but also a little bit of a canon wrinkle because Asajj's appearance doesn't change, Marin's appearance doesn't change that we're aware of. So for me, it's a kind of like, cool, she's a different kind of Night Sister, and if there's ever bigger answers for that, they'll tell us. I don't really care, but I wanted to ask you about it, Ken.
Yeah, I had that thought too. I'm with you. I don't care on any impactful level, but it's curious to note. And I had that thought watching it of, is Filoni did Filoni pull a little bit of a George, as he often does, of Morgan's introduced in the Jedi episode. I think there's already clues there that she's a witch. We know in story, Wing's aware. I shouldn't have let the witch come in there. But at what point was the character like, oh, but what if we make her Night Sister versus some of the early designs, some of the early concepts? Doesn't matter to the story. I'm just interested to track that kind of thing. It's not on a level of, what if Luke and Leia were related? But it has that vibe to me. And this had a way of going, hey, here's an in-story explanation. And you're right. Maybe we'll find out why it doesn't happen for the other characters that you're mentioning. But I had that thought. I had it was a little canon, like, okay, that's what they're doing with this character.
How did you feel about that, Jennifer? Did that pop for you that Morgan just seems to be a little different from the other surviving Night Sisters we know, and did you care?
Well, in Ahsoka, though, we see that she gets the facial markings, right? They come back. I can't remember.
Yes.
So
yes.
okay, so it's,
she's granted like this other level of Night Sisterhood is the way, because they ask her, the three witches from the other galaxy ask her if she's, tell her she's earned the great gift, and it's even more than just her markings come back. Like she becomes something else.
Something else. So that's kind of how I saw it. Was justifying that that stuff. I totally didn't even think about other witches, but listen, I mean, the canon is constantly just like in flux, and I just go with the flow now. I don't even know. I'm like, all right, sure. Because I didn't like that she was a Night Sister or a witch or whatever in Ahsoka. And The Mandalorian. I did not like that when they introduced that. So at least this kind of helped me bridge my anger, my frustration. It helped me make sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved her perspective in Ahsoka of, again, much like this, two people from fallen communities of Jedi and Night Sisters, and how do they handle it? And I really liked her passion and how much this horosity, that's not a word, this horrible atrocity that was wreaked on the Night Sisters echoes all the way through to Thrawn coming back. And I loved all that, but then I did get a little distracted of like, well, what's her deal? So I'm glad that these did flesh out what her deal was. All right, let's move on to the second episode with Morgan, The Path of Anger. Here's the little, directed by Stuart Lee, written again by Amanda Rose Munoz. Summary. Morgan has established herself as magistrate on the resource-rich world of Corvus, promising the people wealth, prosperity, and safety. She attempts to sell the design and manufacture of the TIE Defenders. Rejected by Moff Isdane, who informs her the Empire will be coming to take the resources of Corvus, though. Morgan is then approached by Pelion, who asks her why she wants to build these ships. She lies, saying the glory of the Empire. She goes back home to Corvus, and her people turn on her, crying witch, because she's not delivering on her promise. She's then attacked by Rook as a test. She bests Rook. Then Thrawn appears, criticizing the Empire's short-sightedness and wanting to know her true motivation. Morgan admits it's revenge. Thrawn is very happy to work with her and take her TIE Defender program. This was also a sequel to Rebels.
Yeah.
With, in a setup. I know we saw Xander Berkeley as Pelion in live action in The Mandalorian, and now we have him established in animated form. All sorts of stuff going on. Ken, what was your overall reaction to this one?
I like the episode. I like a lot of reveals, but you got me laughing of like, I'm always on this case of Thrawn as a bad guy. He's got some good points maybe, or you have some sympathy to be earned or empathy, but he's a bad guy. And you just highlighted the fact that much like the Eiffel Tower, which stands because of the work of some female engineers whose names are not on the tower, Morgan's name is not on the TIE Defender. Thrawn's like, yoink, thank you. Side issue, bigger thing. But I love this episode. I had fun going back to 1992. I know we saw Pelion and Mando, Rook coming back in Rebels. Though I'm like you, I for years, Jen, much like your Night Sisters of the Singing Mountain Clan, I've always envisioned Rook to be more like a predator. Like the
me
Predator.
too. Yes.
Like that whole species. And when he showed up in Rebels, I was like, I didn't. Buff Gollum is not what I thought. But
Can I just insert real quick? I also just love that Warwick Davis is credited in all acting is acting. Yeah. But I do love that they called him up and said, we need some grunts and groans. Can you just pull a microphone down while you're making breakfast and going about your life and go,
Not like in the third episode, they're like, Katie, could you just send us a voice memo? Going, who's this? Who's this?
Who's this?
Thank
Who's
you.
This? Yeah. Anyway, right.
Anyway,
continue.
But that's all side. That's just a fun side note. You made me think of that, Jen, of going back to season 4 Rebels, or season 3 or whatever it was. Anyways, a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to be living in 1992 again. Thrawn, Rook, Pelion, okay, I'll follow this, and I know it means a lot to Dave and so many other people, and it was important to me at the time. So let's explore it, and to dive into the cementing a decision that's still based out of fear, but to be like, revenge. I like it. Plus, I also like a disdainful character named Moff Isdane. That worked for me too.
It's up there with Savage Opress. It's like, all right, let's. This is the tradition. Let's keep it going, right? Sidious, come on. Yeah. And a great portrait of the Empire of like, no, we don't want any of your ideas or your partnership. We just want to take your world, and we're gonna. And how awful he is about it. Jennifer, what was your overall reaction to this one?
They should have played this episode before Ahsoka, the series, came out, because this to me worked so well, because in Ahsoka, when Morgan is saying for the Empire, it feels very hollow, obviously. And then when she says for Dathomir, that's supposed to be significant. But for me, it didn't really feel significant, even though I knew it was supposed to be. But here, this episode shows us, she tells us her motivations, why she wants revenge for the massacre of her people, so that when she does say for Dathomir in Ahsoka, it's like, oh, there's the weight that I was personally missing. I also love Thrawn in animated form. The character works so well for me in live action. I had some difficulty with it, some challenges. And here again, they also showed why he's a strategist, why he's he is super, super smart. He's also very clever and is trying to like use emotional
Calm,
like and he's calm and he's like emotionally manipulating her like psychologically, right? These are the things that we know about Thrawn that I personally felt was missing in live action Ahsoka. So this episode for me just really filled in all the gaps, and I just love that these people are both a great pair. They're both super self-centered. They both think that they're incredibly smart and deserve the world.
I love it. Yes,
and they
thank you.
and they are both
Preach.
incredibly smart.
Yeah,
but wounded by being so incredibly self-centered. And this whole thing is a sort of dance of honesty and lies, of basically them both kind of sniffing each other out and going, can we use each other? And they're both like, yes, we can. And we're on the same page about using each other because we've confirmed that we're both out for our own thing, period.
Exactly.
Is really, there's a ton of great stuff of just like the Rook fight is great, just his animation. I love it when she circles the hole in the blade, which doesn't seem tactically wise to have a hole in your blade. All that stuff. I'm a huge Xander Berkeley fan going back to the first couple seasons of 24. I love him. So I love seeing more of him and having Pelion continue. And I thought Pelion was, made to feel different than other Imperial officers in a really great way. So they felt like part of Thrawn's team in a different way. So I loved all of the Thrawn of it. And then you get into the actual heart of the episode, because all that is sort of, these are the characters in play, but that's not the idea.
Yeah. Can I having, again, Pelion's been around for a long time in the Star Wars world, and we had just a boop, blip and little wink, wink, nod, and he was gone in Mando, and I'm sure he'll come back, obviously. But I really love this episode. I love how he played it. It's like, yeah, you are the guy that met Thrawn at the cafeteria. We're like, I like your ideas. I like your ideas. I'll work for you. You rise up. I'll go spy. I thought there was. I could watch more of this with them. I really was intrigued by even what if Rook died? Like Rook did his job. Like it just the weird dynamics, fun dynamics, interesting character.
It's very Game of Thronesy. It's Pelion, and they talk about, Thrawn has a great speech about like the Empire's got a little bit of a problem because everybody is greedy and fearful, and just a million people like Moff Isdane just bumbling through, barking stupidly and making bad decisions. In contrast, Pelion and Thrawn together have a real Game of Thrones. We're really watching everybody make their chess moves, and we're responding with our chess moves. It's just kind of elegant and fun. For me, like the heart of this episode was about rationalizing and getting to some level of truth. Of Morgan's rationalizing. She's just taken over this village because she's furious and wants the power. It's tactical, right? But also, like, I think she, out of her anger, wants to control and brutalize people because she's consumed. And then when the town gets mad at her, she's got that great moment where she's kind of looking out and saying, they're all willing to turn on me after everything I've done for them. These are not my people. How could they ever be? And it was like, you want to, and we've find out she's going to basically enslave them. And yet that moment is so sad because like you're a wounded person whose community was taken away, and what you want is community. And you could come to this town and say, you have a vital resource.
Hey,
let me help you. We'll be in this together. Paid time off, sick leave for the kids, sharing the wealth, community. She could have those things, but what she wants is revenge and control, and to make her feel better about her own loss by putting her boot on someone else. She goes to this town, she puts her boot on these people, and then she's like, and they don't even love me. It's so sad and powerful. And, and Thrawn is peeling away all those layers and gets her to that honesty of just like, I don't have to lie. It's revenge, and I want to live in flames, and I want to hurt people, and I want to do it all to get my community back, to ease my pain. And in Thrawn, I also I love what you were saying, Jennifer, about their doing a little dance with each other. Of Thrawn's line of referring to the rebellion as a sickness that kills both common man and king. We're always in choppy waters when we talk about Thrawn because people have a lot of strong opinions, and I know Thrawn is he has aligned himself with the Empire to protect his people. But I thought that was a really great line that
Mhm.
the rebellion isn't something that needs to be defeated because they are opposing the Empire. Thrawn hates the rebellion.
Mhm.
He thinks it's a sickness because he's obsessed with order and control. And that's a whole
Mhm.
dark side thing. We're going to hear a lot of things about how Palpatine's vision is order and protecting the galaxy from the chaos of the Jedi. We're going to hear a lot of that in the Barriss episodes. So to see like Thrawn is aligned with that. That's his personal belief that he wants a strong, authoritarian leadership because because he's obsessed with order on a personal level and like out of control. Like it's messy, and I don't like things that are messy. I want to know and understand and control everything. So I thought it was a great portrait of Thrawn too. Of like he seems so cool and command and in control, but he also has a sickness of needing order.
No, absolutely. I think that's great. I don't want to go too far down the Thrawn path. I always seem to upset someone when I get to it. But you talk about him being self-centered. I think that's part of the lessons of both of them. Everything you're describing about Morgan is my view of Thrawn and has been for a while. Of I understand his story. I understand. Everyone explains it. I get it. But my point is, he's like, I fear for my people. I want to protect them. So you know what? Let me destroy and oppress and ruin this other people so that mine could be okay. And I love that line. I think it not only bears repeating, but bears rewatching and some analysis of that is who Thrawn is, and the rebellion will upset all of that. It will upset my plans. I don't care about their pursuit of justice. I don't care about their freedoms. I care about me, man. I'm me, and I'm using it all for me. You're doing that. I'm doing that. Let's team up. It's
Yep.
good.
And I'll work with people who will make the let's use one another. We'll sign my let's use one another contract, which Morgan does.
Yes.
And it times up. Final thing for me is like I do love the story of the TIE Defender program being Morgan's idea because of the history of men taking ownership of ideas. But also, to me, it's a great little tie to Ahsoka. Of like, it's not just her witch dreams and visions. You know, she's involved with the technology in the manufacture of these galaxy jumping ships.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she has this design talent in her and engineering talent in her was really cool.
Yeah, and aligns with stuff we've seen already. I love that. Good back.
Yeah. All right, we're going to keep trucking. On to the third episode, The Path of Hate, directed by Nate Villanueva. Again, story by Dave Filoni, and once again, written by Amanda Rose Munoz. Here is the summary. A New Republic envoy arrives on Corvus to offer the planet membership in the New Republic and ask Morgan Elsbeth nicely to surrender herself for trial. The envoy, Nadura, is a former resident who escaped the slave-like conditions of Morgan's factories. The character Wing tells Nadura they did not even know the Empire had fallen because Morgan controls the flow of information. Nadura confronts Morgan. Morgan reveals she has had a vision, the dreams from the Night Sisters on Peridia, and slaughters the New Republic guards. Nadura's droids send out a distress signal before the ship is destroyed, and Nadura is mortally wounded. Morgan sends her troops to burn more of the forest, telling the people they will continue working and they are part of something bigger. Nadura tells Wing he must be strong, that hope and help will come. And then we hear Bo-Katan's voice over the comlink, all of which is a pretty direct setup for the episode entitled The Jedi in Season 2 of Mandalorian. Jennifer, what was your overall reaction to this one?
I really liked this one. I liked the character of Nadura. I felt like she represented the hope and optimism people had after the Galactic Empire fell. She's incredibly naive to think that she can rationalize.
Incredibly hopeful.
Yeah, hopeful, but also very naive. I thought that it also tied in with Ahsoka really well in that the senators, right, who are balking when Hera's like, no, this is a problem, and Thrawn is out there, and they're like, what are you talking about? Everything's fine. We're in place, blah, 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 right? And so it feels like this stuff is happening in the galaxy, and there's a lot of people who don't know what is happening, including this sweet Nadura, voiced by the great Shelby Young.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. I think it tied well to the general picture of the New Republic, of that they mean well, but there's this uphill battle, and maybe sometimes this desire to offer a hand of friendship and to de-escalate, but not being as prepared as they think they are when somebody slaps the hand away.
Right.
That there's that sense of Nadura's like, I know I'm from here. I know who she is.
Right.
You know,
Let me
I
go.
escaped
Let me
from
go.
here. I am not naive. I know exactly what this is.
Mhm.
But I have 5, looks like barely over puberty, New Republic guards with me, so everything will be fine. That they don't actually look like they're. You know what I mean, though. It feels like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like she brought
Mhm.
the best. You know,
Yeah.
just five
Yeah.
five people
Yeah.
who are easily and brutally and quickly taken out. So there is some naivete there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Ken, what was your
Mm-hmm.
overall reaction to this episode?
Yeah, really liked it, and I liked the connections. I liked the setup. I like Katie's voice message at the end. I think that worked for me. I think it was great, and I didn't feel myself needing that after the Jedi episode of Mando season 2, but I definitely wanted it. It was intriguing. And going back to something you said, Jen, I don't want to. Now's not the time, but like I love where we're at with Morgan Elsbeth being a Night Sister and everything. I think there's a lot of power in it. But I think at the time when it was rumored, speculated, and then confirmed, I had a little bit of like, I don't know. I kind of liked her as an imperial magistrate, a person of wealth and influence who you could have gone a different direction with that character. But I like going back to this moment to get a little bit more, to see where it's coming from, and to see it in the New Republic era, Tales of the Empire, 5 years after the Empire's done, or a couple years after. But overall, really like this episode. Valuable lessons. Love the big kind of point on the end to Wing of do your part, and no matter how small it is or it feels to you, it's needed and it's your part, and it can move things. And we're laughing a little bit, making fun a little bit of the naivete, but I think the spirit, the hope, the chance, and offering Morgan a way out. We're going to see that later on. The character doesn't know the way out. We got a way out. Maybe it wasn't the right way to offer it. Maybe it was a little naive, but it's what I think you should do. And I thought it was a good, powerful episode because of that.
Yeah, I thought that there was a real connection between the New Republic in on a real practical level. Like, yeah, maybe bring more security, maybe be more prepared
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a fiery reception. But I did like that it's already the colors of the New Republic, but there was a real connection to the Mountain Clan's blue magic of how blue the New Republic is in their more peaceful, let's work together ways. And it felt like a little full circle in these 3 episodes with Morgan of people keep offering her a way to live in a more peaceful, maybe healing way, a way out, as you said, Ken. And she's like, no, I prefer fire. And I know it's all practical. It's the production will continue. But the sending people to light things on fire in her world, her line of it was in the trailer, my world has been burning since I was a child. That was just like a sort of thematic chef's kiss to me of this is the person who wants to live in the flames. And so she does, and other people will burn for it. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this one before we take a quick break?
No. One thing I'll say, man, it was fun seeing a lot of characters that we introduced on live action move into the animation world, because there's all this focus on the other way around these days, and it's happened both directions before. I get it, but I had a lot of fun with that, and a lot of the actors, love that they brought the actors in to do the voices here to continue the performance. Loved it.
Yeah, no, it was interesting to see, in live action environment with that village and that bell that Ahsoka cuts in half and those trees that are going to be burnt when Ahsoka walks through them. To see it all in animated form was cool. Any other thoughts from this one on this one from you, Jennifer?
No, I do kind of wish that they could sprinkle in some of these wonderful narrative nuggets into the live action, because that was my overall struggle. Not so much with the Barris arc, which I love, but with the Morgan one, I did kind of feel like it was a little bit more like a cheat sheet. So now when I watch Ahsoka, I'm going to have my Tales of the Empire cheat sheet to be like, okay, that's why she did that. Oh, now I understand this character. I just kind of would like that woven in to the live action more.
I think I think I'm with you. I think we really need. I don't need a bunch of answers, but I think we need to really understand emotionally where the characters are coming from. And I think there have been some moments where I feel like it's clearly hit or miss with the audience, because for some people it works great, and for other people it's just like I get it, I know the fact, but I'm not feeling it. And these episodes are great at making you feel things.
Exactly.
Yeah, extremely painful. Yeah, I really did like Morgan's arc from the thematic standpoint, and I did like all the answers we got, but I think I was left feeling like the overall arc had more sort of like, it felt more like filling in some of the blanks, even though I really liked it thematically. And I think I got more out of the Barris arc. So we will take a break and talk Barriss Offee. And we are back here on Barris Center as we continue our discussion of Tales of the Empire and talk about these 3 episodes about Barriss Offee that also do absolutely speak to the Morgan Elsbeth episodes as well. We go first to Devoted. This is directed by Saul Ruiz. Again, story by Dave Filoni, written by Nicholas Anastasios. Apologies for the poor pronunciation. Here's a summary on Devoted. In her cell, Barriss watches the Jedi Temple burn. A clone guard tells her she's lucky she's not a Jedi anymore. She is then visited by a former Jedi she clearly knows, that we, the audience, know is the fourth sister from the Obi-Wan Kenobi television show, but whose name is Lynn Rakish. Lynn Rakish says that Barriss was right, that the Jedi were murderers. They tried to assassinate Palpatine. Lynn invites Barriss to join a new program. We then travel to Nur, and Barriss meets 2 other Padawans that he also seems to know, Amar and Dante. The Grand Inquisitor tells them they will serve the Emperor's vision to protect order. Amar tries to leave and is killed. The Grand Inquisitor pushes Barriss to unleash her anger, saying mercy is weakness. Barriss is uncertain, but faces a final test where she must kill or be killed. She tries to talk her friend Dante down, but he fights violently. She gives in to the dark side, snapping his neck. She and other Inquisitors meet their new master, Vader, and Barriss puts on the helmet. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
They packed a lot into this one. Ken, what was your overall reaction to this one?
Oh, and I loved it. Right into it. Talk about Order 66 moments from a different point of view. Now we know that there's Padme staring out, having some ruminations, and then there's Barriss staring out at the temple is on fire. I'm there for that stuff. I love it. I love exploring what happened and how it affected everyone. And in that confusion, in that kind of haze, comes this offer that's based on, a truth, based on at least Barriss's truth and her perspective and her experience. And she's had a lot of time probably to think about it here, at least a few weeks or months. I forget the timeline exactly of it being in that cell, and to have maybe some people come in and no, you were right. We're confirming what you felt, and whether or not she knows that right away or feels that or agrees with that, she works through it as all this stuff is thrown at her. I thought the Grand Inquisitor scene, how he fought, how he pulled the attack out of her, how he kept saying, again, selling it is a weakness. That's a dark side trait. That's an Imperial trait. But just, again, I think playing upon fear, and your fear is, your fear is making you weak. Why don't you own it? Why don't you throw a little anger in there, and then you can control the situation. Just a little dash. Just mix it up.
You got a little cocktail. Yeah. You got yourself a dark side stew. Yeah.
Just getting your stew on. It's great. So I thought it was interesting, and talk about answers and going to what we're talking about with Morgan. I think we all agree. It's not that we don't fight answers. We don't fight clarifications. They're actually rather fun. I think this one had a lot of meat on the clarification bone in that stew we're cooking up here, because this is happening right away, right? Like, this was Palpatine's plan is so thorough. He's been doodling this on a notepad for decades, I think, and the fact that right from the beginning, the Inquisitor program is something that's in effect. I loved it. It's a little detail. I don't know why. I love that we go to Nur and the Fortress Inquisitorius is being built. There's just something about that I love. That, yep, this is how it's going. It's going on. It's a little logistics I don't like getting caught up in, but they're fun to discuss and think about. Again, we've talked for years of new uniforms. We're ready to go. The next morning, we had new uniforms and things going, but we saw a little more Bad Batch of things slowly changing. So I love seeing the dark side being built at this point in time.
Yeah, the Nur under construction was a cool detail, and I think exactly how long has passed before she's agreed and is flying there is, a little bit up for debate. The timeline of the Jedi Temple burning and Lynn already being there going, hey, we're forming a new team. That was fascinating on a canon level of Palpatine being like, Anakin's the big turn, so I'll get around to him. But I got a bunch of the little turns ready to go. Like, the Grand Inquisitor is already ready to go. Lynn Rakish is already ready to go.
Yeah.
I got some other, Padawans who who've been naughty apparently, and I got an eye on. That was cool to see. Like he's got a lot of this in motion for this to be happening, for this conversation to be happening as the temple is burning, timeline wise. Pretty cool. Jennifer, what was your overall reaction to this episode?
Yeah, I liked seeing her reaction to the temple burning and getting these different perspectives as we have over the years. I liked seeing was this one with the Grand Inquisitor? Yes, right? There's packed so much in. I like seeing him in animation form. I think the character does really, really well in animation form. Is it Jason Isaacs? Wait, who's the voice? Yeah, right? Oh, so good. So good. I like Rupert Friend's version, but for me, it didn't play as well in live action. Here, I thought it was fantastic. And I like how easily people are able to give in to their hate and anger. Like you're saying, these people must have already been primed and prepped, like the chosen ones that are going to be, potential candidates. And I found it to be shocking to see Barris become a sister. I personally never would have expected that, although I know people on Reddit were suspecting that.
Yeah. I mean, people have been waiting. I think people were expecting her to show up as an Inquisitor in Rebels.
Yeah, that's exactly where the thread I found.
And then maybe in Kenobi, maybe in Ahsoka. There was a lot of suspicion that of Merrick, the one who ended up being just a reanimated Inquisitor who shows up in this, is a non-reanimated, one would assume. Yeah. So the Barris as Inquisitor people have been salivating for that for years.
Except for me. So I was shocked.
I forgot about the seventh sister, the Sarah Michelle Gellar character.
Yes.
That's right. There was heavy Barris speculation into that.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. So how did it affect you on an emotional level as you were watching the episode? Did you expect her to resist? Did you expect her to give in? How did you feel?
I felt like she was angry and she felt like she had been lied to, so it kind of made sense that she would want. I mean, it was shocking to see that kind of, I don't want to say training or like duel, but it just seeing these two people duke it out in that way. I thought that was very exciting to see. And so this is where the show for me really started to take a turn, where it felt like it was charting new ground and it felt very fresh from this moment on for me personally.
Yeah, no, I think I think for me, what a couple of things I really liked about this is, the Barris's story is complicated. I know people have a ton of opinions about it, but for me, in the Clone Wars, it's very solidly like her perspective. I have empathy for that the Jedi have allowed themselves to become involved in violent wars. They're invading sovereign planets that don't want them there, like on Umbara. She was a child who was taught to value life, who was pressed into service as a soldier. She's got a lot to complain about, and she's right. But then she has, in my opinion, an ends justify the means. I'm going to frame people. I'm going to cause violence. I'm going to, be a participant in death in order to criticize what the Jedi are doing. So, we can talk about it more. She herself later says, "I felt a darkness," and I think she's talking about the Clone Wars, not the Inquisitor moment, in my opinion. We'll get to that. But so I love that she's sort of been primed for it, but then seeing the Jedi Temple burn, it was sort of like I didn't want the Jedi Temple to burn. I wanted the Jedi to get out of the Clone Wars and maybe be held responsible for that. But there's already like a hey, for me is the way that I felt about it. And what I really liked about it is this episode really established all the rationalizing of the dark side of. I think Barris is maybe still in the place like the Jedi made mistakes. They lied to me. They made me be a soldier when I didn't want to be. And Grand Inquisitor and Lynn are both working on that sort of rationalization. There's a ton of dialogue. I didn't even write it all down about there isn't any sort of like, we want to take over the galaxy. Giving into your anger gives you power. It's all like, isn't it so bad that the Jedi tried to take over the galaxy and unfortunately to protect the galaxy, unfortunately to protect the Emperor's grand vision of order, which will be great for everyone. Unfortunately, we must be strong to stand up against this threat. It's all rationalization that it's not a choice they're making. It's in response to something that the fear of the other that, and everything in this episode is about that anger is, a necessity to prevent against weakness. And I was really, it was really heartening to see how much Barris resisted that, even down to trying to talk Dante down and they got her to a point where she had to kill or be killed, which was this great manipulation because it really is like, well, if you are merciful, you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So it really reinforced her rationalization. So unlike other characters who we've seen sort of give into their anger because they want to release that anger, for her, she's manipulated it to a place of, I have to kind of go along with this or I'm going to die in this moment, which I thought was really powerful and horrible.
I thought that she was actually using it as an emotional tactic to try and trick him. That's actually how I read it at first. Second viewing,
really?
not so much. Yeah, where she was like, "We don't have to do this. We're like, don't know. Let's do this," and then stab him through the abdomen. That's kind of what. Force choke him then. So yeah, I really kind of saw her as like maybe using that, but I don't know. Who knows? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's totally open for interpretation. I just kind of felt like she was getting to the point where it's like, I don't really want to put on that mask. I agree with the flaws of the Jedi, but I'm not sure that this is. I mean, this is not unfamiliar imagery to a Jedi. This is we're in order to prevent the Jedi, we're going to become Sith, and it's. I felt like she was looking for a way out, and she couldn't find one, and so she put on the helmet. And tried to rationalize.
I think there was a big connection to me of the Jedi. They eventually hunt down in the second episode when that Jedi's like, I'm so exhausted, I'm so alone. I think in that moment there's an emotional exhaustion that she's been dealing with for a while, and she's alone. There is no one around. Even this Dante guy was her last ally, and he's trying to kill me, and I'm gonna have to kill him. I am so alone. I guess this is the only way. She gives into that at that point. Again, a little bit of fear, a little bit of loneliness, but yeah, a lot of it there. And I'll say this. She is one of the worst Inquisitors ever. She's really bad at her job, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I also just felt like that helmet image, like that. I was so glad that the Vader thing wasn't bigger than that. That it wasn't her realizing he was Anakin. It wasn't her sort of flashing back to him stopping her and catching her and all that. That it was just like that guy's a Sith. Real clearly, and that's what they want me to be. It just got that moment of looking at the helmet and just like, it's great to see to me, it was great to see a dark side thing that was about, I'm ambivalent about this at least, but I have to go along with it for now. Action wise, I also just really like the horrific fight between her and Grand Inquisitor, and just the exchange of blood. It's a little bit nastier than Star Wars sometimes is, of him to make his point of mercy breeds weakness. I'm going to make you bleed, and I'm going to push you until you make me bleed. It was a little bit more visceral than Star Wars is, and I liked it.
Yeah, and I was even thinking of when she fights Dante, like, man, what sick bleeps came up with that fast? You know what we should do? Just a hole and then laser grid and just push them in, and they either die or fight. Woo, this would be fun. Want to watch? Like it was.
We have to. The Jedi made us do it.
Yeah,
it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on? Because we're already almost talking about the second one anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Go for it.
All right. We'll dive into Realization, directed by Stuart Lee, again, story by Dave Filoni, written by Matt Majenovitz. Here's the summary. Barris and Lynn are sent to seek out a Jedi in hiding. Barris is doubtful of the mission, in my opinion. Lynn says the Grand Inquisitor sent them, so it's correct, period. The villagers are terrified. Barris calmly approaches a frightened child, promises them safety. In exchange, the child tells her the Jedi is in the mountains. Lynn, enraged that the villagers lied to her, slaughters them all. Barris doesn't see how slaughtering the village is bringing order. Lynn says all must see and respect their power. Lynn confronts the Jedi, who beats her. Barris then defeats the Jedi in combat, but talks them down, promises them a new life. Lynn then strikes the Jedi down anyway. Lynn says all Jedi are a threat and must die. Barris says, then you have one Jedi left to deal with, and pushes Lynn off the mountain. She promises to help the fallen Jedi survive. All right. So, Jennifer, what was your overall reaction to this one? Where do you think it kind of landed in Barris's journey?
I really liked it. And I like the narrative that not just Lynn, but other characters in the previous episode, or the narrative that they're trying to paint about the Jedi. that their powers are scary and they want to use them to control your minds. And you don't want that. And they're going to make you do things that you would never want to do, but they're mind trickery, right? I thought that was really great. I think it's what Lynn really believes and what she's trying to get other people to believe. And this is where I felt like seeing Barris's compassion. That was really, really fascinating. She hasn't given herself fully over. I love the showdown between Lynn and Barris. I thought that was really thrilling to see. Yeah, I liked it.
Awesome.
Just giving my notes. Yeah, that was it.
Ken, what was your overall reaction to this one?
In a way, this was my favorite episode, though I think the third one is great way to take home the 3 episodes. But I really enjoyed this one. There's something about it. I'm fascinated with the Inquisitor program, going from a point of when Rebels comes out, the Grand Inquisitor, and kind of having it was a little dubious, a little like, I guess you couldn't get Vader was busy that weekend, so you got this substitute villain. From that kind of cynical point of view to what we're talking about here was already kind of rolling. Of course, it makes sense. What do you do with those who still have the Force or maybe even a lightsaber or two? They're not all going to die, and it's maybe not to your advantage to have them all die. So I'm fascinated with the program, and I'm fascinated about how many of them are bad at their job, because this is a little bit of a crack in Palpatine's plan. About everyone, you can't just erase your identity that easy. You can't just give in. Some do, but who you are is still there, and you can find a way back to it. Or if you're helped, you can find a way there. And so I liked that switch happened here. I liked that this episode ends with Barris going, I'm out of this program, because I'm joking, but like, she was the worst Inquisitor. She showed up with empathy. She took her helmet off. She was nice. She's like, whoa. Like, and I was like, this can't last. I mean, how long is this going to go? And so I love the decision to have this be it. That isn't a story going forward as Barris the Inquisitor. We get it. You know what I mean? This is why I do like this format. I was joking earlier about everything should be this short, but I liked it. It was just like, we don't need 2 seasons of her as the Inquisitor. We got it. We know where we want to take this character. Here it is. Here's the big decision. It matters thematically. So really love this episode for that. As brutal as it was, and it was pretty brutal at times.
Yeah, this one is competing with the third one for my favorite. I mean, I know it's Tales of the Empire, but I'm always going to get excited, fist pumping victories for Jedi, in the fact that she reclaims the title of Jedi. That, I mean, that's, emotionally for me, that's like, Rey catching the blade in the forest. It's and a hero shall come and make the right decision. Is so powerful to me to have that hope after all of the darkness. And what I thought was so great about this episode, I love your joke, Ken, that she's really bad at her job.
Really bad.
But what it really is like, in my opinion, is that she goes along with the rationalization of, well, I had some problems with the Jedi, and there were some times that they came and they caused violence, and maybe she has seen her master mind trick someone, and maybe there's just enough of that, that manipulation of her lingering doubts about the Jedi to go, well, maybe the galaxy does need to be protected. So I've put the helmet on and I'll go along with the rationalization. So this whole episode is her just trying to pretend that the Inquisitorius is a more resolute version of the Jedi, of like, our goal is to keep the galaxy safe and Jedi are a danger. So we're going to go around and we're going to keep the galaxy safe from Jedi. And, she keeps pointing it out to Lynn of like, well, how is frightening and slaughtering the village? I thought we were doing this to bring order to the galaxy. I thought the Jedi were a threat to villagers like this. Why are they poor? Don't we have a lot of money? She keeps asking these questions. And it's all about like, I signed your rationalization paperwork and you're making it impossible for me to go along with the rationalization. There's the great line from the villager of, we are judged by our actions. And Lynn basically says like, yeah, you lied to me. And the judgment is I'm going to slaughter you for daring to lie to me about where the Jedi is. We see the empathy. We see her, the emotional intelligence of talking to the child calmly. We see her, being kind to the Jedi, who's so alone. But I thought what in some ways what broke her was, Lynn, I'm I'm giving you every chance to follow through that your rationalizations are true. That, yep, just like I did when I was involved with the Jedi bombing, we're scary, we're awful, we're carrying red blades, but the ends justify the means, right? We're doing scary things and killing each other and murdering Jedi to protect the galaxy, right? And Lynn's basically like, no, we're doing it to have power so that they fear us and we can kill anyone we want at any time. We're not here to help anyone. That was really powerful to me, building up to such a big moment. Not a big moment for her to walk away, but such a big moment for her to say, then you have one Jedi left to deal with. It was such a justice for the Jedi episode of like, yes, they make mistakes. Yes, they screwed up badly in the prequel era, but their goal is light and kindness and empathy and help and togetherness. And for her to go, I'm going to judge them by the majority of their actions, not just their mistakes. And I'm going to reclaim the mantle is so powerful to me.
It's a big moment. It's a big moment in the character and her story and the story of the Jedi. And it is, it's the ideas I'm here for, not necessarily the institution, which can falter. I thought it was a wonderful moment. And the helmet you gave me sucked. So take it. Yeah, I loved it all.
Yeah, my biker helmet wasn't as cool as you joked, but also like, yeah, I mean, it was such a strangling of identity. It goes along with Morgan losing her markings and stuff that's going to happen in the third episode about Lynn's name. And that's why I feel like she put on that helmet and she didn't really want to, because it was erasing her identity, her individuality, and just being in lockstep with the mission. So for her to do the push and then go and bleep this helmet, I choose who I am. Great.
Yeah. Yep. Powerful.
Yeah. I also wanted to point out that the Jedi, who I don't believe is named, a big thing isn't made of it, but they, them pronouns are used consistently by both Lynn and Barris. And I thought that was some great bit of inclusion of the diversity in the galaxy.
Indeed.
Yeah, Jennifer, any other thoughts on this episode? Any favorite beats or anything?
No. My favorite episode's the next one.
Ooh, excellent.
Yeah.
Ken, any other final thoughts from you?
No, great stuff. This is going to be one of those, I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to put this episode on kind of things.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really special episode to really focus on the rationalization of the dark side. Yeah. All right, let's get on to the final episode, which it sounds like all three of us enjoyed. The Way Out, directed by Nate Villanueva, written by Matt Michenovitz, with the story by Dave Filoni. Here is the summary. On an icy world, a family takes their child that they believe to be ill to a whispered of wise mother healer. And we discover it's an older, worn, but calm Barris. The child has been targeted by the Empire because they are force sensitive. Barris explains the Jedi of old would have trained the child as she was. She waxes poetic about seeing the stars with her master before a darkness took her. Lynn, it turns out, in her role as the Force sister, is tracking the child. So Barris sends the family and her two helpers to a mysterious friend, giving up her starship. Barris confronts Lynn, encouraging her to let go of her anger, saying, "Look at yourself, you're hunting a child." She warns Lynn, Barris warns Lynn that she won't be able to find her way out of the cave following the family. But Lynn tries, the family escapes, and Lynn, lost and alone, rages at the mirrored walls of the cave. Barris appears trying to offer Lynn help and a way out. Lynn lashes out, stabbing Barris in the abdomen. She then cradles Barris and tells her there's no way out. Barris encourages her, saying she knows the way out. Lynn promises that Barris that she'll get Barris out. She leaves her Inquisitor blade behind and walks out of the cave carrying Barris. All right. Besides some stumbles on my part, there we go. Ken, what was your overall reaction to this one?
Yeah, I loved it. And is this also a trailer for storytelling to come? Yeah, you betcha. That's pretty cool because I think there's a lot of things to focus on going forward. But I love what was put forth here. I love, crystal caves and reflective caves in Star Wars are always there to challenge you and pass through caves. And I love the use of it. And I love kind of this simple, direct, dare I say, even warm message of, yeah, you're lost. You're lost in a cave of your glass box of your own emotions. There, Ron Burgundy, but a friend, connections, someone who has love and care for you. I can get you out of here. You're not alone. There's a lot of that going on in these episodes too, right? Loss of community, loss of self, and that could make you feel alone. We know that's how the Empire makes you, feel like you're going to lose anyways. But I loved it that I'm here for you. I can get you out. Fortunately, you stabbed me, but through this we can get you out of here. So, anyways, jokes aside, thought it was really well done. It was very mysterious. Love that we do a time jump. And, again, I love it in a tale of empires. This is definitely the imperial era. This is a tale of the Empire. I love that we're focusing on so much other things outside just the boots on the ground, the stormtroopers, the walkers, the things that maybe you would expect in a series about the Empire. It was about the emotions that trap you in it, and a beautiful episode.
Yep. Morgan successfully finds her way into the Empire, and here we get to see Barris walking very far away from it, which is beautiful. Jennifer, what were your thoughts?
I absolutely loved this episode. This, to me, I would have loved this to be the beginning of an animated movie, a new series. Yeah. It grabbed me from the blizzard, the snow, right? There was nothing spoken in those first moments with the character. Yeah. I don't know the creature, alien species, but looked kind of like a lion/mole. And just like there was like this kind of like mystery around it that just felt really like vibey. And I was like, oh, this is where I want to live with Star Wars. There was like a mysticism throughout the episode that felt very much Star Wars, but also something very new. Seeing Barris as like this wise mother and this healer, I was like, ooh, this taps into something that I want to see that I didn't know I wanted to see. It just felt really, really cool. I loved that it really talked about that. She calls out Lynn and says, your anger makes you predictable. I just thought that was so beautiful. In this moment, Barris is like so calm and so centered, but she is so much stronger than Lynn. I loved the dark side cave, or whatever it was, causing fear in Lynn, when we're used to always seeing that with our heroes, right? It felt very much like The Last Jedi, which also I appreciated. There's just so much within this episode that I hope that it will continue on.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you, and I think you're pointing to some great things about the whole series being very evocative and moody, but the particular vibe that this one was putting out was very fantastical and beautiful. I love the lion mole, as you called him, popping out of the snow, like kind of hiding in there, was like a great little like fantasy movie detail, and just the kind of the tip of the iceberg story about Barris and her two helpers who seemed so kind and warm. And this could have been the path, right? It could have been.
Yeah.
And what it seemed to me is Barris is aware of some version of the path. We'll talk about the canon of, who is the traveler and who is her old friend that she's sending them to and all that. But this isn't the path. This is Barris saying, I made a mistake. I walked away from this lie of the dark side that it's about control and order. It's just about anger. You're hurting others, but you're also hurting yourself. I want to be a capital J Jedi. So I'm just going to find a place. I'm going to hunker down and I'm going to offer help to anybody who needs it. Just come to me and I will help you. Right? This isn't the path. This is a healer.
Yeah.
And they're coming because the baby is sick. So, right, a different version of the story is the baby is actually sick and she uses some herbs in the Force to get the baby healthy. And I loved it. So everything you're saying, Jen, about that vibe of this is Star Wars when it's centered. This is moments of Luke and Rey and Obi-Wan being kind, and just radiating kindness and empathy and community, and that's the mission. This is the opposite of living in flames. Come to me and I will heal you. It is a great vibe to live in, and I absolutely do want to live in that vibe more. A couple other specific things that I really, really liked is I loved Barris's little speech to them, right? Going back to Empire Strikes Back, right? A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense. That one way to be kind to people is to give them knowledge. And for her to give that nice little speech of like, I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on and why, so you have the knowledge. But then within that, she's got this great little speech about her own experience with the Jedi, where she says, they trained me as their own. I saw amazing things, traveled the stars with my master before a darkness took me, but that was long ago. It's got that fantasy vibe that you're talking about, Jen. But it's also got this like, it isn't romanticizing. It's looking back and going, there were great times with the Jedi. I was invited into a family. We traveled the stars, seeing amazing things, helping people. And I lost sight of that. And to me, it's really taking responsibility and culpability of like, I have been through the fire and I'm out the other side and I want to help other people come through the fire. That was beautiful before we even get to how awesome the cave is, you know?
Loved a lot. Yeah, loved a lot of stuff with Barris. There's this affirmation of what the Jedi were, right? And the conversation of justice for Jedi will go on. Acolyte is going to bring some questions about the Jedi and the organization. I'm sure there'll be some discourse. We've talked about that. But I just loved hearing from Barris this. And by the way, it wasn't her at any point going, I was wrong about the end of the war, and it was okay that we were generals. It wasn't that. I think she still would say that was probably wrong and probably led to a lot of things. But I love the memories of the joy on her face, because it starts with a little bit of the Jedi took me, and we know that kind of sometimes is a pathway to other conversations that some would consider natural about the Jedi and their path and all that stuff. But I just love that it ends with what you said, this darkness took me, and how it goes back to her life. And it doesn't mean some of her perspectives and what she was trying to do were wrong. It just means, all these things happen, fear and the rationalizations, all the things we've been discussing. I thought it was real beautiful to hear that from Barris Offee.
Yeah. And I think, it doesn't dive into it. And I'm sure some fans, might interpret it as she's referring to having joined the Inquisitorius briefly. I took it as that Barris is saying I was right to criticize the Jedi. We'd lost our way a little bit, but I lashed out in anger and torture that I had been made a child soldier and I didn't want to be. And my life was ruined and I lashed out and I didn't actually help anybody. I just hurt people and it didn't accomplish anything. Barris is basically saying, I just yelled at the store owner at Ken's Mall and it didn't help either of us. But that was long ago, and I'm making better choices now. Was all so good, so beautiful. I loved her calmness in the fight. I loved that it was a direct refutation of what the Grand Inquisitor had tried to tell her, that her holding herself back made her kindness, or whatever his exact quote was, made her predictable. And she's like, actually, it's the anger. It's great to see, sometimes we see Darksiders where they have a mastery of their anger and it does give them focus. It's great Vader and Maul moments. Then we see some moments like this with Lynn or with Kylo where it's like, no, it's just making you sloppy, and I always love seeing those moments. And I'm very curious to see how you both interpreted it. I really like, maybe the cave has some sort of Force Virgins properties or whatever, but I just really took it as like, it's a cave of icy mirrors that's a complex tunnel through a mountain, and it's just nature sometimes showing you a reflection. And it's not testing you like the cave on Dagobah or on Octo. It's just, you go in there and you're going to see yourself. And the little lion mole with his light sees beautiful sparkling light as he guides the family to safety, and Lynn just sees nothing but rage. Ken, did you take the cave as mystical, or did you just take it as, hey, sometimes you see a mirror and you don't like what you see?
I didn't take it as mystical. It doesn't mean it couldn't. It definitely connects with where all of us have mentioned the other caves and paths in Star Wars. I think it has the same effect. What's in there, only what you take with you. But I think that's what it is. I think it's frustration, right? It's this little tiny pebble that she's stepping on of frustration that is then fueling all the other things that fuels this. Well, if I don't do this job, I'm gonna be punished. I have a fear of that. I have a fear of this failure. I have a fear of losing control. I have a fear of losing who I am. I have a fear of this opening up who I truly am. All that stuff, and it starts with this little tiny. You can't find your way through a confusing cave because you're not calm. You're not at peace. You are seething with anger and fear, and that's what causes her to trip up.
Yeah. Yeah, and the dual quotes about fear of Lynn saying, "Fear is not your ally; it's mine." it's a,
Yeah,
it's so pedantic. It's like a kid yelling about a toy. It's my toy. I use fear on you. And then Barris saying, "It seems fear is not your ally, but your master." To me, that really, it's a great reminder, like we talked about earlier on, of Yoda's speech of fear to anger to hate to suffering. You do that to others, but it's also what happens to you. And I thought that was really powerful to see Lynn going through that, or just utterly trapped by herself. And, the whole way out thing it's a crystal clear metaphor of being lost in a literal maze. But also I kind of felt like a part of the power of it was Barris saying, if you calm down, you know the way out. And her way out was just, I felt like retracing her steps, right? She just has to admit she put herself in a cave full of twists and lies, and she has to admit it and walk back out. And it's a hard thing to do when you've been angry and made lots of mistakes. To just go, the way out is to just go, I made mistakes and I got to try again. Yeah.
I would say that there was some sort of mystical element only because you have to quiet your mind like a Jedi to be able to see your way through. You have to be calm. You have to trust that you know where you are going, which is why it's almost like a light side cave where because Lynn is in there with all this anger, she cannot quiet her mind and she's just going against wall and her own like reflection, as you're saying. So, I mean, it's not a true dark side cave, but there is some sort of like kind of, it feels like it's slightly like there's a force at play that's required for the people who enter it to have to kind of like get in their Zen mode in order to get to the other side. Spiritual cave. That's it. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think I was thinking of it from almost the nerdy sort of perspective of is the cave force sensitive? But you're right. I think the path through it is the force, is the light side, is taking a deep breath and being calm, or you're never going to, if you panic, you're done.
Right.
In this cave.
If you get angry, you're done. Right.
Yeah.
Let's call it the cave of personal themes. They will be reflected back at you.
There you go.
That's the meditation mirror cave. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. I want to talk quickly about a couple of canon things. The first one, because I just don't want to let this pass. How did you feel, Jennifer, about the level of aging up for Barris? Like in Star Wars, we have characters who age differently. Like, Bo-Katan is clearly on like the Keanu Reeves barely ages diet. Obi-Wan's under the twin suns and goes fast. I appreciated that we had some lines on Barris's face to let us know it's been a while, but in some ways it felt like that she aged a lot. Did you have any sort of reaction to it, or did it just track for you that she's aged?
No, I loved it. It felt very real life. I mean, she looked like, a new age aunt that you might have, like who just, she's cut her hair. She doesn't do Botox. Like she's just living life, right? And braving the elements. And, there's no moisturizer out there. And so it's like, she looked like how she would be. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. I like that. Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, she invites you to a festival to see Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Just come on out. Let's do it.
Yeah. Lots of teas in her hut, I think. Yeah. No, I liked it because I think it communicated that a life lived, right? She has been in hiding. She's been out and she has been active, and she has the wisdom of her age. So I thought that was great. I think for me, I wanted to talk about it because there's all the back and forth of between the Clone Wars and A New Hope. It's only 19 years, and 19 years pass very differently for different people. I
mean, 19 years ago, I looked really young. Like,
yeah.
So somebody could look at me now and be like, "Oh, that lady, woof."
Yeah. So I'm gonna guess she's around 17 because she's still a Padawan, maybe 20. Yeah. Because I guess you can be older as a Padawan because Obi-Wan's 25. So she maybe about 20 in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So then this is, we don't know when in the timeline this is. This could be 10 years later, 15, 20. So it is the jump from like 20 to 30, 35, 40. So yeah.
With no sunscreen or moisturizer, that's it, right? That's it.
The Force is her moisturizer. She doesn't need any products.
She doesn't need any product. How much water
Uh,
is she drinking?
Yeah. Ken, sorry, I didn't mean to spend this long on Barris's wrinkles, but how did you feel about her aging?
I loved it. I loved it in terms of the story because I think we're moving past clearly season one of Kenobi, right? With this character, the fourth sister, making what we think is a big decision. So I love that. I love the age. Yeah, no, the age. I think it's great, and I think we're joking a little bit because of it's always that conversation of wait a minute, how old is Boba Fett? Versus Bo-Katan, and how and it's just it's a very
the memes
of
Bo-Katan running into Kenobi on Tatooine and going, "Damn!" It's funny to me. Yeah,
yeah, and you dated my older sister, or
right?
It happens. I mean, one of the reasons my beard's trimmed down today is I looked at the photos of us at Phantom Menace and went, "Oh no, I'm starting to age fast in the last couple of months here. I'm gonna trim it down and get rid of some of that gray." It happens fast, kids. It happens fast. No, I loved it. I love what it said. I just love I love how Barris wore that aged up appearance, and again, I want to make sure we're this isn't a attack on wrinkles. It's just like I think it looked good, like the age, the experience, the wisdom, the scars. It looked like a great character that you want to spend more time with.
Yeah, laugh lines and smile lines and natural things. Yeah.
It's important in animation and in freaking live action with actors that they cast. Please let actors look like real people. I mean, when you look at the British actors, it's like, oh, there's a real person. Yeah, that's a whole different discussion.
No, but I think it is aligned in it. This is a character who has very strongly chosen her identity, and like I just want to be me. Here I am. I am not hiding anything. I have the benefit of my wisdom, and I want to share it with others. And just a great look for a kind, healing aunt with lots of teas and old music recommendations.
That's right.
Yeah. Great.
Yep.
All right. So I'm sure this one did. I haven't had a time to really look on the old social media, but I'm sure it set off a canon discussion of Firestorm. The family says that's when we met the Traveler, and he told us to find you. So we have the question of who is the Traveler, and then we have Barris sending this family and her two helpers to an old friend. So Ken, where did you go with some of those canon questions of who's the Traveler, who's the old friend? How did they land with you?
I'll say it. I think Traveler is Asajj, and I think the friend might be Ahsoka. There you go. That's my thoughts. That's what. Yeah, nothing more, nothing less. Open to different predictions and different terms.
Yeah. Jennifer.
Yeah. See, this is where I can't really speculate because then I go into canon and timelines, and I'm like, well, who's around? Who's hanging around, and how does that fit in with the live action stuff versus the animated stuff? I'm just gonna let them let them tell me if they decide to in some comic book that I won't ever read, and I'll have to look it up on Wikipedia.
I think this one feels a little bit more like on screen because it is so related to the past. People have been fired up about that with Kenobi. We've been told there'll be more for Asajj. It does.
Yeah, right.
It does feel like there's something going, and
Quinlan.
Quinlan's out there. So the old friend seemed like Ahsoka to me because, in particular, because it seemed like Barris had healed so much that would be a part of her healing. To have her and Ahsoka had been like, yep, let it go. We're working together. I mean, this is Tales of the Empire reminded us that Bo-Katan and Ahsoka are tight. When Ahsoka first meets Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars, she's terrorizing and slaughtering a village to prove that strength and dominance are good. Ahsoka's real good at forgiving people and then becoming pals to help other people. So that seems like a great moment to see someday. I also, I guess this is probably post Kenobi because of the fourth sister. So Taladureth has probably passed on, but that was my only other person to put in the mix there. So I think Ahsoka,
Roken, right? Roken.
Roken Jr.
Yeah.
Yep. So all sorts of great stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I also feel like Lynn's fate now, post Kenobi in post Tales of the Empire here is wide open to become, a principal character in something path related as well. Final question then is we talked about the sort of the ambiguity with Barriss versus definitive endings in Star Wars, but to end on a positive note, Jennifer, what are your hopes for Barriss? Do you feel like
For Barris. Okay.
Barriss, do you feel like she is living? Do you feel like she is going to make it? And are you excited to see more from her?
Yeah, this version of Barris, absolutely. I would love to see more. I want to learn more from her. I think she has a lot of wisdom to share with the characters around her and the audience. And I think that if they can continue this mystical kind of tone, ooh, give me that, give me that. So yeah, I would love to see more of her.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things that excites me about the path of the possibility of this sort of mystical, healing,
Hmm.
kind, empathetic tone. And then, a group of
Right.
just incredibly kind, empathetic people facing the horrific challenges of this era. That was one of the things I loved about Bad Batch. And I think the path could continue that really great, great vibe.
And one last thing, I know that in the legends, there are some stories about her as a healer, I believe. So I do
Okay,
want to acknowledge that. I know that
cool.
people really love that story. So yeah, be cool to see more of that.
That's great. That's great. Ken, what are your, do you feel like Barris is going to live? And if so, where do you want to see her again?
Yeah, I think all signs point to something, and next animated series, an animated movie, moving to live action. It just definitely seems that, like I said earlier, all the pieces, not just Barris, but there's so many pieces in play, and it's so open ended, and I'm okay with that. So excited, but yeah, for Barris itself, I think she's in an interesting, wonderful spot. I really like the next big step in this character. And if it is the end, and I know we were talking earlier about let's say goodbye to some characters, Barris has good reason to keep going, I think, in the Star Wars storytelling. But if this happens to be your end, I think it's a pretty powerful, emotional and thematically rich ending, or at least chapter. So I'm excited to see her more. I think she's earned it. And it's crazy to think after all these years, and a lot of Barris speculation. I can't believe I forgot about the one during Rebels. But yes, here we are, and it's fun.
Yeah. You've both said some great things about, redemption arcs recently. And I know people have really been excited about Crosshair having a more full redemption arc instead of, some of the more mythological endings that we got with Vader and Kylo of, redemption to sacrifice and nothing in between. And like with Crosshair, we got a real life story of that. And I love that we're getting that with Barris of like, in the grand scheme of things, of awful things in Star Wars, she slipped for a little while, and now she gets to spend, a long life making a better choice. Is a really powerful, resounding story, and partnering with somebody like Lynn, who is a part of it, and like let's heal together, would be really great. I think also with this episode, quite possibly being post Kenobi with what's happening with Lynn, that puts Riva in play. Probably not as the old friend, but as in terms of being involved with any future past storytelling. Last thing I'll say, and I hate to be pedantic, but I realized that the quote in the episode was, "That's when we met the Traveler, and he told us to find you." So maybe Quinlan.
Oh,
Oh, then there you go. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Quinlan makes sense there.
Quinlan.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Good point.
Jarl Poof.
Definitely Jarl Poof.
Yeah, definitely Jarl Poof. Jarl Poof. Hondo. Hondo's the
Gonky?
Traveler.
Oh.
Gonky's the Traveler. You heard it here first. Tech 2.0 is the Traveler. It all makes sense. We'll circle small things on the YouTube thumbnail. All right, Ken, any final thoughts? Any hopes for future tales of events like this?
I love the format. I love the Ahsoka and Dooku ones. Really enjoyed Morgan here and love Barris. I think there's so much potential. If they did this every year, I'd be thrilled. If they did it twice a year, I'd be thrilled. Because look, again, you have this wonderful cadre of writers and directors from Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch, and I know there's probably more things coming with them all. I get it, and I hope so. But, Dave gets on a flight, gets out a napkin, jots down some ideas. They write it, direct it, and make it happen. Beautiful arrangement. Let's do more of these, please.
I agree. Yeah, for myself, I love the mood of them. I love that they are sort of vignettes with such a strong feeling and emotion. And I think probably more casual fans can sit down and watch them. And then for people who are more in the bubble, they are kind of full of connecting threads that are vital and interesting. So yeah, I don't have a strong need for the Tales of to be any specific thing. I just want them to be. And I'd be even fine if there are things like Tales of Hubris or Tales of Redemption.
Yeah.
That'd be fine with me too. I don't need a noun. Jennifer, let's close out with your thoughts. What are your hopes for other tales of events like this?
Oh, I'm the wrong person to close out
Oh.
on. I'm sorry, guys. No, I love, like I said, the Tales of the Empire. I love the vibe that it presented. I love the tone. I will say for me personally, it's for a series that's for people that either have a very good memory or time. And when I was a younger fan, this would have been my thing where I could crawl into that nerd bubble and really connect the dots and get excited about, all these things. For me personally right now, I find it to be a little overwhelming with the information and like trying to piece together, okay, and how does that connect with that? So it just becomes a little burdensome. And so it takes me out of the show. But that's why I liked the final episode of this so much, because it did feel like it was charting new ground. And I was like, okay, now I kind of know what's going on. And I'm excited to see where it leads to. So I could personally, I like that this is out there for people, but me personally, I'm ready for the next thing, namely Acolyte.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree too, because I like the Barris episodes. To me, were they're great justice for the Jedi stuff that I love, and great mood and vibe. But it also did feel like it felt like a more complete meal of a character who was made to do a horrible thing, maybe decided to do a horrible thing, walked away, and became a better person at beginning, middle, and end. Whereas Morgan's felt a little more, like I said, like it didn't feel, even though I enjoyed it, it didn't feel as complete. It made me feel like, and now in order to finish the little journey I went on, I need to put in this episode of The Mandalorian.
Right.
So I really agree with that perspective and the balance in these episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Ken, you want to take us home?
Hey, yes, we're the ForceCenter Podcast and ForceCenter Show. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook is ForceCenter Podcast, or on Instagram. We're over there as well. YouTube, if you're watching, subscribe, please, if you want. If you want to consider, please tell friends. Subscribe. Make 3 accounts. Subscribe. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Do it. Also, we're as a podcast available in a lot of different spots. Just search, you'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. For me, follow me at Napzok. My website is active for 1 more month. You ever quit a company because they raise their rates, and when you do, they go, would you like to stay for the same price for a little bit? So my website's active for 1 more month. I'll be selling some things there too. Collectibles and comedy dates are there as well. Jen, where can they find you?
You can find me on mainly Instagram at Jennifer Landa and YouTube as well, and TikTok occasionally at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go. Joseph, where can they find and follow you, including any future adventures with film festivals?
Yeah, there is another showing of The Nightmare Adorable coming up this weekend at oh man, I'm not even going to be able to remember. Look at my website because it's a big crimson screen, but I can't remember where. Anyway, you can find the information there, or you can subscribe to my newsletter blog letter thing called Finish Your Monsters, new issue of that coming out. As soon as we're done recording, I'll hit send on that one. It's been a very, very busy week. Thank you all for joining us. You can go to my website, like I said, josephscrimshaw.com for all my stuff. This is it for our look at the Tales of the Empire.